Ladies and gentlemen, I am back. It's been like a week since my last upload because of the fact that I had been on set filming for a movie 12 hours a day for the last week or so. But the kid's back on YouTube, and what better video to break out being back than an absolute disaster class of Doc Rivers. Let's talk about last night. Let's talk about kind of just the epitome of Doc Rivers and the problem of Doc Rivers. The problems, I should say. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. The grind starts again. We're going to be uploading as much as we can. A lot going on in my personal life for the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So it might be tough, but I will try to bounce a video out every single day. Let's get into it. Sometimes I think to myself, how bad does a coach really have to be to make a genuine impact on the game in the NBA? Because for the most part, players, the best team wins, right? That's usually how it goes. But for some reason, in my lifetime, in the Philadelphia 76ers, the last two coaches, and which seems to be the last 100 years in Philadelphia, we tend to get coaches who literally make an impact when it comes to win or lose in the NBA, in the worst way. Because Doc Rivers has been absolutely atrocious. I want to break down basically last night and what I saw last night. And what I saw last night really kind of epitomizes the whole problem with Doc Rivers and the whole problem that it's been for the past 2 years now, because it started with Ben Simmons and now it's reached the point where his ego is just disgusting. And I'm talking about Doc Rivers, where I don't think I can handle this anymore because he's not a good coach. I would like to start off by saying Giannis Antetokounmpo is an incredible player. The Milwaukee Bucks are a really good team, and with Brook Lopez, arguably they're the favorite to come out of the Eastern Conference. So it's no, bad loss when you lose against Milwaukee, because that's a good team. And Drew Holiday is a great player, and Middleton can be good sometimes. And of course, they have the reigning MVP of 2 years ago, Giannis. Now, does that give you a reason to put Paul Millsap on Giannis Antetokounmpo and let Giannis score 17 straight points against them in the second half? No. Now, the last time Philadelphia played Milwaukee, Paul Reed kind of killed Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis went 4 of 11 in their last matchup against Paul Reed. And for some reason, I think Doc Rivers thought, hey, Paul Millsap is the better option. And sometimes it comes to the point where I don't even think he honestly thinks DeAndre Jordan and Paul Millsap are good. I just think he refuses to play young guys, because my ultimate problem with Doc Rivers is the fact that he refuses to play Paul Reed or Charles Bassey. And I'm not going to sit here and say Paul Reed and Charles Bassey, playing them is going to fix everything and the Sixers will win the finals. I'm not saying that. But you know what? We will become a much, much better team and a much more contending NBA team if we play Paul Reed or Charles Bassey. We want athleticism to rim run with James Harden. I think Charles Bassey does that better than any of those four guys. We want a defender who can come in and play scrappy defense and kind of shut down Giannis Antetokounmpo when Embiid's off the court, which should never happen. Giannis should never be on the court without Embiid on the court, and I hope to God Doc Rivers acknowledges that problem last night and can fix that come playoff time. But we want a defender who can defend Giannis a little bit when Embiid wants to take a break. Paul Reed is that guy. It's not 38-year-old Paul Millsap who hasn't been able to jump past 6 inches in the last 6 years. It's not DeAndre Jordan who can't guard a fly or produce anything. Paul Millsap was terrible last night, and it's not even on Paul Millsap. It's on the fact that his coach let him run out there and guard the best player in the world, arguably, in the second half, because it just doesn't work. And the fact that we can't learn to stagger minutes between Harden and Embiid still is disgusting. It's like for 2-3 games, Doc Rivers decided to coach well, and then ever since then, he's stopped. And he's back to his same issues. It's back to these ego trips, thinking the veteran is always the better play than the younger guy who clearly is the better play. And it's really, really frustrating. It's come to the point where his rotations are just not good. If they're not good. James Harden and Embiid should never be off the court at the same time. And Embiid hinted at it yesterday in the press conference. There's absolutely no reason Embiid is off the court when Giannis is on the court. And this is just a problem throughout the season. It's been throughout 2 years. It started with last year of Doc Rivers refusing to take accountability and refusing to allow Ben Simmons to take accountability until the very last game of the season, when we should never have lost that series to begin with. And Constantly babying these players and allowing them to do whatever they want to do is just not going to get you a championship. And then when you call him out on it in a press conference, he's going to come out with the most arrogant responses, comparing himself to Greg Popovich. Well, guys, I don't know if you know, but he is very, very far from Greg Popovich. Greg Popovich is an all-time coach. Doc Rivers is not. And I know he's on the top 15 of all time, and I still think that's one of the most baffling things in the world to me, because Doc Rivers had won one championship in his career, and it was a super team. It was a super team. And I'm not discrediting that championship, because I'm sure it was difficult, and I'm sure he had, some great coaching games. But it's not that difficult sometimes when your four best players are, Rondo and 3 Hall of Famers. It's weird to me, and it just is like Doc Rivers lives off of that one championship he got over 10 years ago, and is using that as his excuse to do everything he does now. And it's like nobody steps up to him. Embiid should not be on the court for as long as he is in the fourth quarter in the last 2 years. It's these stupid rotations of putting Embiid in with exactly 7 or with exactly 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It doesn't make any sense to me. Doc Rivers has no feel for the game. His rotations are never based off of how the actual game is going. It's all based off of determined rotations that he's had set up since the goddamn offseason. It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that. Every single night in the NBA is a different night. At any point, any team can win, for the most part, until playoffs. And you have to just go with the flow of the game. He doesn't understand who's hot and who's not. And the fact that he puts out Paul Millsap repeatedly when Paul Reed is just a significantly better player in every single aspect of the game is infuriating to me. And DeAndre Jordan over Charles Bassey is infuriating to me. Bassey has been absolutely dominating the G League. And I know that doesn't really say much, because what is the G League? Skauska scored 100 points in a 2-game span. I understand that. But at the same time, it's flashes. It's what Bassey is doing. Bassey's not going out there and just getting buckets on everybody. He's playing good defense. He's playing his role. Charles Bassey could come in right now and do a better job than DeAndre Jordan. And Paul Reed could come in right now and has come in right now and do a better job than Paul Millsap. When he finally decides to put Paul Reed in with 2.5 minutes left in a game, we're up by 30. Paul Reed goes out there and gives you 8 points, 4 rebounds, assist, and a block. I don't know what else the man has to do to just get playing time. It's unbelievable. And his lack of accountability come press conferences over and over again seem to baffle me. He never takes the blame for anything. He always backs up the reasoning behind what he did. And sometimes, man, you're just wrong. Sometimes you're just wrong. And I think the worst trait in a person, regardless of what their profession is lack of accountability. You have to be able to take blame for when you mess up, because you know what? That's powerful. Sometimes you learn and you grow the most when you take accountability for the worst things that happen. And Doc Rivers doesn't seem to do that ever. And another thing is I don't understand how this James Harden thing is going. James had a great game last night, for sure. James Harden, Tobias Harris had a phenomenal game, and Embiid had a phenomenal game. When those three played the games that they played, there's absolutely no reason we lose that game to Milwaukee, but bad coaching. It comes down to bad coaching. The last play of the game, it rubs me the wrong way. I love a James Harden step back, but I'm giving the ball to Joel Embiid on that last play of the game. Every single time. And you know what? Embiid got the rebound, and that layup would have gone in, but it was just the defensive player of the year type of play by Giannis. It happens. I'm not mad that we lost that game. I'm not mad at how it ended. I'm mad that that's the play call. It reminds me of those J.J. Redick dribble handoffs to end games with Brett Brown, and I'm like, dude, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? This isn't the play. Like, sure, this will work out of a timeout in the second quarter with 8 minutes left when there's 3 starters on the court for both teams, but it's not going to work when it's playoff crunch time basketball. Why do we run away from the pick and roll? The pick and roll for the Sixers between James Harden and Joel Embiid is the most unstoppable play in the league. Literally, nothing stops it. It is successful like 85% of the time. Why can't we run that with 15 seconds left in the fourth quarter? Why do we have to run iso ball? Why does everything have to change just because there's 15 seconds left in the game? We can run a pick and roll between the 2 best players on the court, but we don't. And it's just, Doc Rivers doesn't learn. He doesn't adapt. He doesn't learn from his mistakes. He doesn't grow. And that's what it's going to come down to. So I think the Sixers team has a chance to win an NBA championship. Slightly. Yeah, I do. I still do. Because when you have 2 guys like this, and Embiid, who is one of the most dominant players in the NBA, you will always have a chance to win a series. But with Doc Rivers playing the way he is, coaching, the way he is, it makes it a lot more difficult. And it's not great, man. Hopefully at the end of the season we can get rid of him and move on. But I don't know. Coaches in the NBA seem to have way too long of leashes or way too short. And a guy with his tenure and a guy with his type of credibility, I just don't think Doc Rivers gets fired. I really, really hope I'm wrong. I really, really do. More than anything in the world. But you know what? The difference between me and Doc Rivers, if I'm wrong, I will gladly accept that I'm wrong. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, peace.